Welcome to the fourth and last tutorial in this series on how to set up custom weapons for AGS for Unity 3D. In this last tutorial we're going to set up a skeleton enemy to test our new weapons on. So hopefully it won't be as long as the others, but we'll see. So let's start with this skeleton pack. To begin with, I have pre-made a player ragdoll and a skeleton ragdoll out of the skeleton from this skeleton pack, because setting up ragdolls is a bit tedious and I don't want to waste your time with that. Also, I have made some tweaking, mainly in the combat movesets and specifically the timing on certain skills so that it fits more properly with the animation. I mean, the second charging, seconds firing and so on. But that's mainly tweaking and I haven't been super serious about it. Yeah. Okay, let's start with adding a skeleton. What I did with this skeleton, it's a legacy pack, but you can change the animation type to humanoid. After that you can use it for AGS. So let's start with just adding one of the prefabs, and let's take this one. There's a mage, there's one with a spear and a dark knight skeleton type of thingy. But I'm going to use this one with the large dagger, so I'm adding it to the game level, or specifically to the enemies folder. I'm resetting position and rotation, and you can see. Well, let's move the player out of the way. You can see the skeleton is quite small, so we need to change the scale to 2 to make it humanoid scale. And also I'm going to get rid of this particle system here. Yeah, and I'm going to rename this skeleton like that. And then I'm going to use the prefab, the robot prefab from the Space Ninja pack. Let's see, it should be resources, enemies, robot guard. I'm going to add that one here, and you see this is the robot guard prefab. And we're going to start with that to speed up things. Basically everything is going to be the same, except that we need a skeleton model instead. And we are also not going to use the blaster, obviously, that the robot guard carries, but we're going to use the dagger. But yeah, here we go. So I'm going to break prefab instance from the robot guard. Actually, this is going to be called skeleton. And the enemy view, I'm going to change the name here also to skeleton. You need this name to match the name of the ragdoll, because the game manager will look up the name of the prefab, and if it has ragdoll as a suffix, then it will instance it correctly. Okay, so actually we're going to get rid of this legacy animation here, and we are going to get rid of this, but first we need to also duplicate these robot card controllers, so we have a controller to start with also. So I'm going to duplicate this, call it skeleton controller, and let's move this to the tutorials folder, skeleton controller, like that. And then we continue while we're at it to move the scripts. We're not going to use projectile weapon move. We are going to need combat skill animation, so we move this script, drag and drop it to the skeleton. And the same with the Space Ninja movement animations. And then I add this skeleton to the skeleton's prefab. I'm going to make this not capital, so we can differentiate it from where the main enemy script is located. So the robot card, are we done here? Can we delete this now? Yeah, I think so. So let's delete that. And we're left with the skeleton, and we need to that rotation there came from me drag and dropping it into a game object that already had a rotation on it. So here we go. Yeah, well, let's find the dagger. Here it is. It's not going to be animated, but it needs a melee weapon view script. We're not going to use status effect on this. Instead, I'm going to use it on the combat moveset, I think. Let's see, combat moveset type. Arm. Actually, we can use. Let's use sword. So we don't need to create another one. And we don't need to do anything else here. We're not going to use hit volumes for this. I'm going to show you how you can do this in an easier way for enemies. Let's add, if we select the skeleton with a capital S where the enemy view is, we can add this dagger now to his weapons. And then we need to, let's see, we're going to need another script on this. You saw before that the robot god, he had ranged combat move, anim event listener, and we instead are going to use anim event combat skill anim event listener. And when we add this to an animated character, we can then call from the animation we can add events on this script. So that's what we're going to use to make the dagger strike the player. Now let's add the animator rather to this one. So animator. We're not going to use root motion. And let's see. We can actually we can start right away because I already duplicated this. Yeah, okay, so skeleton controller there, and then we go to the animator here. We can delete special movement, I'm not going to use that. Jumping can be there, okay. We go to combat and we can, this is as you can see, it's based off the robot card, so we're going to delete all this. And also we're not going to use a character mask or humanoid mask, and we're not using inverse kinematics. So now we simply need to add the melee animation that we want Skeleton to do, and we go back to melee axe pack, awesome free asset, and this is the same animation that we used for the shield smash. If you remember, we mirrored it for the character as a shield smash. So this time we're going to use the main or rather the original animation. So we have it there, and we make a transition back, and this the enemy script from the Space Ninja asset. It uses Fire 1 for enemies. This can of course be modified, but we're just going to use it as it is for now. Fire 1 is true, and we go back to empty state is Fire 1 is false. And then we set up the combat moveset. Let's call this sword, and we change it to sword. Combat moves slash, perhaps. It needs an active target, yeah. When we're going to use it like this, it needs a target. Otherwise, because we're not using a collider on this dagger to find whatever it strikes, but rather we are going to use the skeleton's set character target, which is going to be the player. So this needs to be checked for what we're going to do here. I don't know about this, I'm not going to change it right now. Fire type should be sustained here. Sustained fire means it will continue here until something happens, rather than single or one-shot fire that will go through charging, firing, recharging and back. This one will go to sustained firing and it will stay here. For example, auto fire or something. And we're going to use it for the skeleton to keep swinging at the player when the player is close. Okay. Where were we? Okay, we go here. Are we done with this? Yeah, perhaps. What we need to do now is to add the anim event. So we select the skeleton and we go to the animation tab and we select, now you can see we can select this standing melee attack downward because we added it to the animator. So let's set up an animation event here. Oh, why isn't skeleton swinging? He should be swinging here when we scroll forward. Is something wrong? Let's hit play and see what happens. He chases us, but he's not animated at all. Okay, let me just check this real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, easy enough. We simply had to set the avatar property here, skeleton avatar. When we hit play now, you can see him is animated. He is using the ninja animations, Space Ninja animations right now. It looks a bit weird, so let's change the base animations first. Idle walk, need all these animations. We can delete walk, idle. For this we use the skeletons animation, and the animations that came with the skeletons. So idle and run. And also you saw that he was pushing the character or the player, and that's because we hadn't set the range on the melee weapon, so it tried to reach the character although it already was in range. So this could be perhaps 2 even. Let's see where he stops now. Okay, a little less. 1.5 then. To make it stop in a realistic range. 0.75 then. So, yeah. Okay, that looks good. And now let's go back to what I wanted to do before. Standing melee attack downward. If we scroll this forward now, when the avatar is set, we can scroll forward until we want the animation event to happen. And I think, yeah, that's where the dagger is thrust outward most. So at this point we add animation event and we edit it, and we simply call hit function, which is called on this script here, combat skill anim event listener, and that's all we need to do. And now we should be set up, except that we haven't created any hit effects yet. So let's create a status effect for the slash attack. Status effects. Status is the English word status. Status effect combo view, and we add damage as usual. I'm probably going to need a separate videos for all these kind of effects that you can set up either on combat movesets, on the weapons itself, or even for ranged weapons you can set up the same things on, for example, a bullet or an arrow, and this way you can create multiple different effects. For example, fire arrow, where you do a certain kind of special attack which stuns the enemy, for example, and yeah, you can do lots of things with this system. Anyway, so resource effect view, damage, and I don't know, let's say a little, only 10, so the character doesn't die right away. And we add status effect combo view here, and now we should be set, unless we're not going to see what happens. So I'm simply going to add the heads up display from the Space Ninja project. It should be here as a prefab UI, a HUD. So let's just add the HUD here. You can see it's you get let's just delete that, the Space Ninja image there. Sorry, game object prefab instance. can delete the mission HUD. We can delete stamina and air bars. Then obviously it looks a bit weird there, but player info we can delete this too. And now we just have the target and the player resource bar. This is the target resource bar, obviously. Okay, so I just need to make this a bit smaller to make it look at least a little less weird. Like so. And I move it up a bit. Okay, and that's it. Now I think we should be set to test play this. So let's go. And we immediately get object reference not set to instance of an object. So let's examine this. Okay. Okay. For this view script, we need to set the combat entity, which is in this case is the skeleton. So we go to the script, which is here, and then we add a reference to the skeleton script. And we are not losing health, what we should have done. And the skeleton is not losing health either. So, okay, I killed the skeleton there and weird things happen, so I'll be right back. Okay, there were two issues we had to fix to get this working. First one was that we needed to add the game level to the property of the HUD script. Drag and drop it there. And the other issue was that I had forgotten to add a view script to the dagger that we need when we're using animation-based attacks. So we need to add this one, weapon hit active target script. And this one subscribes to the weapon's fire action, and whenever the weapon fires, it gives all effects to in this case, the skeleton gives all effects to the player. Okay, so now we can run this again, and we should see that the skeleton strikes the player. And now we can also try our own weapons, so we try the axe first. And I can see now it's not set up perfectly. Oh, and we also need to give ourselves a little more health, so we don't die like that. And I saw that the follow-up attack here didn't strike. Now it does, but that's only because it wasn't set up perfectly. The moveset or the combat move timings in the weapon moveset, combat moveset, I mean, these values here, this needs to reflect the animation. So let's try the staff. Oops, too far away. Now we're striking the skeleton with the staff. And oh yeah, I forgot we also had a jumping attack. So, oh, I'm not gonna stand. And that one also has a pushback effect. Let's rerun it to get another skeleton. And yeah, we tried to swing with the staff, so let's try to shoot the fireball. I'm gonna do it from behind. And that one is quite powerful. So I need to restart again to try the sword and the shield. Oops. I'm gonna stand on the skeleton's head. There we go. And first we can try just the sword. Oh, you see double numbers, and that's because we have a damage effect on both the sword swing skill and on the sword itself. Let me show you. The swing has a damage effect of 15, and we had apparently set an effect on the sword itself. I didn't realize we did that in the last tutorial. Yeah, it has a damage of 20, so that's why we see double numbers when we hit the skeleton. So I guess the shield also has that. Let's try the shield. Yeah, it has double numbers also. And we can obviously use both shield and sword. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial series, I think. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll be back with other tutorials. Bye bye.